94.3 WYBC, the rhythm of the city. I'm Juan Castillo. This is the Electric Drum. And I have someone in the studio with me today. It would take a long memory to recall a time the fabric of the city of New Haven has not been tied to William L. Dixon, better known to all of us as Bill Dixon. He's the current Deputy Director of the New Haven Parks and Recreation Department. Bill has also served as city firefighter, directed New Haven's efforts in coordinating the 1995 Special Olympic World Games, founded the New Haven Summer Basketball League, which has been ongoing since 1980, and is a member of the Quinnipiac University Athletic Hall of Fame as an assistant coach of the 1983-1984 women's basketball team, which qualified for the first NCAA tournament in program history. Bill Dixon in the building. What's happening, my brother?
Good day, Juan. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, man. I am so happy to have us finally do this together, man. I've been trying to I know you were humble, man, and it's hard for you to talk about yourself, but there's a lot of people out here, especially some of the younger ones, that need to know this history. Let's get started, man. All right, because we got we got 45 minutes for us to do 2 hours worth of information. So you from Bridgeport. Tell me about growing up in Bridgeport. You grew up in Bridgeport.
Well, you grew up in Bridgeport. You have some humbling experiences. I grew up in housing development, and both my parents are with me. They came from the South, and they basically the North, coming to the North was where the jobs were at. And that's what my parents did. Me and my sister, who's a retired police officer from the city of Bridgeport, she now lives down South. We had a humbling experience growing up in the housing authority in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which was called Beardsley Terrace at the time. Now it's called Trumbull Gardens. I always live by the motto: just because you were born in the slums don't mean the slums was born in you. You can rise above it.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of great opportunities, knowing that my parents didn't have great educations, but they told us what we were going to do and what we weren't going to do. I mean, the thing about the lights, being in the house before the lights, on the street popped on was real.
Yeah.
Those little things about being a pain in the butt, in school or in the community was real, because not only did you get beat up by your neighbors, your parents will rip you too. So I developed an knack for being in sports at an early age so that I wouldn't get in those types of troubles. I was fearful of my parents. I mean, me and my sister, my father was a man of not many words, but when he looked at you, you worried that, what did I do today? And that would scare me to death, that he would just look at me and I was like, I know I did something wrong and I don't know what I did. But, that's just the way we grew up. That's the way we were raised, to respect our parents. And growing up in Bridgeport was no easier. I played high school football. I played basketball. I mean, I did every sport you could possibly do growing up, just to make sure that I stayed out of trouble. And the friends I grew up with, lifelong friends right now, are still with me.
Right.
So, Bridgeport was what it is. And everywhere in Bridgeport, I had a bike. You had a bike to go everywhere until I was old enough to drive. But I was involved in everything pertaining to sports. I mean, everybody who was somebody in sports, whether you played basketball, football, baseball, whatever, we were all connected. So that was Bridgeport. Bridgeport was good.
So now you started playing football in high school. In terms of organized, was it in high school, or when did you start?
Yeah, we played a little Pop Warner football. We always did that. And then you went on to high school. At the end of my senior year, I was second team All-State, and I went on to college from there, and I had some opportunities to go to faraway places in college, but my parents didn't have any money for me to go to school that far. I mean, if I remember, one college was in Kansas. I know if I went out there, I was never getting back. My parents didn't have that money to take me out there, yet alone bring me back.
So who were some of your mentors during that time, Bill?
I'm sorry.
Who were some of your mentors during that time?
Oh my goodness. Um, if growing up, I grew up with Charlie Bentley.
Wow.
Everybody who was somebody in sports, um, who are or who moved away or whatever, they were all part of my life. Because we all grew up in the housing authority of Bisley Terrace. And if you go across the way, I mean, there was John Lewis from Harding High School,
Yes.
Frank Brown from Bassick High School. These guys were mentors of the guys that, even though we went to a different high school to where they worked at, they had a rip in your behind as far as teaching you what was right and what was wrong. And no matter what side of town you were on, if John Lewis heard that Dixon, I heard that you were XYZ, there was a fear there. And even though Charlie Bentley, who was a little older than I am, and one of my best friends, these guys kept a tight rein on us, and they brought us up. They taught us how to, what to, when to, and you just follow their lead, because they were great mentors in our community and great strong Black men in our community that helped me get out of there.
Yeah, so let's get back to when that decision to go to college. Let's talk about that. What happened?
Well, you're coming to the end of your high school career. Everybody's making decisions. All my best friends, we going somewhere. Don't get me wrong. Our whole thing about college is that everybody's going somewhere where we don't know. I remember getting the first call to go to Southern Connecticut State College, and now it's university. And man, the paperwork was enormous. I mean, to read it and try to figure out the financial aid, the application, your transcripts, and all this stuff that had to be all combined together was so enormous. And my parents didn't know, so we enlist a person that was in our community who was helping me get all this paperwork together so I can get to school, go to school, wherever it was going to be. And it just so happened to be Southern. I remember my first day of college. Both my parents drove me to college, dropped my behind off. They wanted to see, and once I was dropped off, it was on from there for the next 4.5 years. Try to get in and get out.
And while you were there, you had some mentors there, that I know very well. I just interviewed the gentleman here, track coach, famous track coach, right?
Yeah, yes.
So tell me about your experience at Southern and how he helped you.
Southern was your growing point, where you met a lot of people from all over the state of Connecticut and further. Those people today are still my best friends. I stay in contact with them constantly. Some have been the just ever present in my life. But Jim Barber was like the first real big male that I ran into on campus. Jim Barber was the man. He if you followed his way of thinking and things he did, he's the reason why I am where I'm at today and how I did it, where I'm going. He was just a major in your face yelling. I mean, it's the only guy I know is a longtime track coach at Southern. The only guy can run a track meet without a megaphone, because his voice was so loud and so carrying over a track meet. I mean, I can still hear him today. And then there was Jimmy Williams, who was in the admissions office, who's still around, still here today. And Barbara Sipes, who was she was like a counselor. Those are the three main figures that we all, as minority student athletes coming to Southern, first ran into. And then it was a guy, Phil Johnson, Dr. Gardner, who was in the music department. Yeah. Those 5 names stick in the back of our minds. Everybody who was a minority back in the 70s when we came on campus and changed the whole scope of Southern and minorities going to Southern. Yeah, exactly. Those are the 5 people that brought us in and told us how to be student athletes or whatever students matriculating at Southern Connecticut State College.
Yeah, I mean, pioneering times, right? And and so important when you are in that role, because I know I've met quite all those people that you had just mentioned. I've interviewed a couple, and the one thing that's always mentioned is the responsibility to our race in that environment, and being pioneers and having to have some success, right?
Right.
But tell me how did you maneuver through being a student athlete? Because that's something that a lot of people don't talk about, right? It's not the same. Okay,
No.
so talk to me.
You know, growing up in a predominantly white institution, and there wasn't a lot of minorities here and there, you have to learn how to maneuver. I always told people, I even say it today, my whole life wasn't revolving around black and white, although, you migrate and work toward helping your brothers and sisters. I said my world was green. And I tried not to get into the black and white thing.
Mm,
My whole thing was that if you were a black person, you did me wrong, I'm through with you, not the whole race. And the same thing I did it with white folks. If a white person did me wrong or said something derogatory about me, I'm through with that person, not the
yes,
whole doggone human race.
right,
Because like I
exactly.
said, my whole world revolved around green, and who's controlling green the most. So
Yeah,
I
that's
so
equality. That's equality,
yeah,
though, right?
yeah, and that's how I had to grow. That's how you had to learn and grow up. I mean, when
Yes.
I went to Southern to play football, obviously not a coach who was black, and you can count the number of black players on the team at Southern on one hand,
Mm,
and I happen to be one of them. Very few black minorities came through Southern at the time, and it was small and few in between. So in the early 70s, you just learn how to work and maneuver around that, and get through school. I mean, and the other thing too is that you still have people like Jim Barber. Like, if we thought we were done wrong or something was wrong, we had people like Jim Barber, Jim Williams, and like the people I mentioned that spoke up for us. We walk into their office and said, listen, we had a problem with the bursar's office. They don't want to work with us, and everybody knew, and even today, everybody knows Jim Barber. And he's still working like part-time at Southern because the president of the college won't let him go. Jim wants to retire, but he won't let him go. But he's the type of person that you call and say, Mr. Barber, I got a problem. Da, 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 da. And he'll say to you, did you do this? Did you do that? What happened with this? Okay, let's go over and try to correct it. And so you learn to do that. And then you had other figures that that were in the community that started to meet at an early age, and they sort of helped you along too, knowing that you were a positive person and growing up. And I got involved in the community at an early age because I was a recreation major. And so when you start getting involved in recreation, your world opens up to everybody and everything, because recreation is everything.
Because New Haven was new to you because you grew up in Bridgeport, so this was a way for you to get connected to the New Haven community.
Yeah, and if just it just so happens that I, obviously, everybody goes into PE at some capacity, but I didn't want to teach. I would have worked for anybody but be in the classroom. Not that I'm downrating teachers,
Of
but these
course.
children are crazy, and they were crazy back in the '70s, and they're crazy again today. So I knew teaching was not it, but recreation had so many avenues to it. It's just not rolling the ball out and playing basketball or playing touch football, where the case may be. It's outdoors. I mean, with my job that I'm into right now, I've expanded the use of recreation, what it means to everybody. It means, being in the outdoors, could be meaning indoors, or, programs, opportunities. We got a huge bike program in our parks department that I'll never forget. My outdoor adventure coordinator said, hey, Bill, he speaks with an accent. He said, Bill, I'd like to start a bike program. Okay, so I went out and bought him 10 bikes. I got 200 bikes in my office in the basement right now, after I bought 10 bikes to get started. So I'm saying,
Right.
like, what happened? And what we do for city residents, we I tell you what really happens with the police department. We know all the bikes that get stolen, confiscated, or whatever. After they go through the court system, we take them, refurbish them, and give them away to the public.
Nice.
Now, everybody who's listening to this telecast today, don't be calling my office tomorrow talking about you want a bike. I ain't going out like that. But
So
that's what we do.
yeah, absolutely, and we'll talk more about that too. So okay, so now you a Southern, you're matriculating, you're getting the mentorship, and so it's getting close to graduation. Talk to me about what's going on.
Where we say God works in mysterious ways, and
Yeah.
I had a friend, Fred Scott. He works for the New Haven Recreation Department at the time. We lost him about 3 years ago. And he found out that I was a recreation major, a minority recreation major. There was only about 2 or 3 of us in that department at the time. And he said, quote unquote, "Hey man, you interested in working in after school programs?" I said, "Sure." I didn't even ask him what the pay was. I said, "What do we do?" He said, we run, New Haven runs a lot of after school programs because the recreation department is in the schools. There's 10 recreation supervisors who are in the schools, and after school, they run a lot of programs. So I had to make a decision, stay with football, who I wanted to get a scholarship from, or go into recreation. And I decided to slowly go into recreation. And it was a great move because today they call it Wexler. Winchester School was my starting ground. Winchester is where my life began. Dixwell is where everything in my life began. And we started doing after school programs then. We started making and kudos to the teachers that were there, all the sisters that were minority sisters there. They raised me. I mean, I can name mostly all the teachers that were there, but they raised me in that school, raised me how to be a man and how to be a leader amongst our children. And if you remember, Winchester School had the Ashford Street high rise back there. So we had a lot of children and kids in that neighborhood. So after classes, every day, I go to Winchester School, whether I walk, ride my bike, or got a ride. And that's where I stayed at till 8, 9 o'clock at night, running programs for kids and adults. And it started getting part of me. And now the recreation department of Southern finds out that I'm involved in the community recreation. They want to tie me into some classes and stuff just to, to tune me up into, graduation. And so when I graduated, I had an opportunity to work in recreation, but I didn't work directly with the recreation department. I started my job work with the Dixon Neighbor Corporation, who wanted a recreation coordinator to help with community recreation in that neighborhood. And one of the kudos I have to give to is William Pete Gray. He took me under his wing. He was the director of Dixon Neighbor Corporation. He took me under his wing, and another guy that helped me make it in New Haven and in recreation and Dixwell.
Yeah. So you graduate. And so you decided to continue to do the work here in New Haven. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I spent about 4 years working with Dixon Neighbor Corporation until a major great opportunity came up. There's 2 things that happened to me. One, in 78, 79, because I got out in whatever, I'm not going to tell the year, but I went into, one of my friends was coaching at Quinnipiac College, and he asked me, say, "Hey, man, because I took a lot of courses at Southern. One of the courses I took was basketball. And we had the basketball coach for Southern, Ed Brown, who was teaching us, teaching that course. And I took it and I learned a lot from him and stuff like that. So when he found out that I was doing that, he brought me over to Quinnipiac for the first 2 years as a non-paid assistant working with the women's basketball team.
Wow.
And one thing led to another. And in the meantime, in between that, you're not going to make a lot of money coaching part-time. In the meantime, the fire department job opened up, and I really got to tell you the story about that. It was funny. I was gun-ho about it. Oh, yeah, the fire department. Yeah, this is great. I can do this. And then I started seeing things on TV. You started seeing these fires and people getting hurt and killed and firefighters coming out. I turned that job down twice before I took the test. I said, heck no. And that's not the way I said it. I ain't doing this mess. But I'll never forget Ben DeLito, who's the mayor of the city of New Haven. He said to
Yeah,
me, he caught me one day. He said, Billy, I heard you're looking to get on the fire department, and they're looking for more minorities anyway. I said, yeah, Mr. Mayor, but I said, I'm having second thoughts. And I told him the reason why. He said, listen, you're young. Take the job. Get on the job. Take it. 10 years. Get out. You got vested pension. Move on to something else. And I'm coaching college basketball at the same time.
right.
And so I did it. Next thing I know, I mean, it was the best move I made in my life. But now Quinnipiac is getting stronger. We're getting stronger in the program because we're recruiting more athletes. And now the part-time job, I stayed assistant for 6 years, and then I became the head coach after that 6 year. I became for 10 years, I was the head coach at Quinnipiac. So now I'm swinging two jobs. I'm a firefighter for the city of New Haven, and I'm also college head basketball coach at Quinnipiac College
Right.
University now. And
Awesome.
so, my things were swinging upwards for me, raising a family, um, two boys. I elected to make sure that they got the HBCU experience, North Carolina Central, North Carolina A&T.
Right.
Um, and things were working for me here in New Haven, and
That's
a
great.
lot of good people, a lot of good things were working.
Juan Castillo, which is this is the electric drum, of course, and we're speaking to Bill Dixon, current deputy director of the New Haven Parks and Recreation Department. You know Bill. Everybody in New Haven knows Bill. Bill is like, in New York City, they'd say that everybody at one time or another had to walk through Times Square. Well, everyone in New Haven at one time had to walk past Bill Dixon. I got to tell you that right now. When I came here to this city, that was the first name. He said, "Yo, you got to talk to Bill Dixon." So we're talking to Bill Dixon. So now, Bill, so you're at Quinnipiac University coaching women's basketball. Tell me about
Yes.
that experience because, I mean, of course, this was the pre-UConn days and all that, right? But that was the beginning of Connecticut really falling in love with women's basketball.
We had good high school. First of all, we had good high school basketball in the city, if
Yes,
not the
sir.
state of Connecticut. We had players. We had players that went on to big schools. And everybody mentions Tracy, but I can go on to name you about 20 young ladies from around the state,
And they all,
Caucasian black who made major impacts on college basketball.
yes, yes, yes.
And knowing that I was in a great institution academically, it gave me, I started thinking, we got a lot of great players here in the city of New Haven. And why not give them an opportunity to matriculate at Quinnipiac? And I did. I started recruiting heavily some of our great athletes that came out of and that's when my success started, changing. You bring them in. As a matter of fact, I brought several young ladies from Boys Girls High.
Yeah.
One was a All-American, first team All-American. Still
Boys
hope
High, man, my alma mater.
she's still, I know, that's why I said that. And she still holds the NCAA record for most rebounds in the season.
Wow.
She was averaging 30-something rebounds a game. To tell you a short story with that, everybody thought
Yeah.
we were padding the scores. And this was our freshman year. Everybody said, no one can average 30-something rebounds a game. I said, well, yeah, sure. So the NCAA came in one day and sat there and counted her rebound. Little did they know, as a freshman, she couldn't make a freaking layup. She's 6'2", can jump out of the gym. She shoot the ball, miss it, get it again. Shoot the ball, miss it, get it again. The little girls in other colleges couldn't jump over. So she get a rebound. She get a rebound in a sequence of 4 shots, and she'd be pissed off and mad. But the thing was that when the NCAA finished finally counting, she had 36 that game. And they said, now we know why she's getting 30 rebounds. She can't make a layup. No, but that record still sits. I think it's 22 rebounds a game. But the young ladies that we had from Cross, Hill House, and other cities throughout Connecticut, we brought them in, and we just made an impact on Quinnipiac and the sports with the women's basketball team, who was just getting going. And I'm really proud of that. Quinnipiac, or at least Bert Kahn, who was the AD at the time, took a chance on a minority black person coach, on running his athletic program. And I'm so grateful to him for having that trust in me to do that.
Yeah, that was felt great. 1980, you become a Hall of Fame
Oh my
member.
gosh.
That must have been extremely gratifying.
Well, technically I'm in 3 different Hall of Fames. I'm in the Connecticut Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, Quinnipiac College Hall of Fame, and the Tap Off Club Hall of Fame. So I don't know if I'm just getting old or honestly, I think you and I had this conversation, and the reason why you talked me into doing this, I know what I've done from my heart, but to be recognized by all those organizations of what I've done, I never realized it because everything I did was from the heart and to try to make a difference in other people's lives and stuff like that. So that's what I did. That's how I did it.
Great. Now, there's 3 other things I want to talk about. Number one, talk to me about the Special Olympic World Games in 1995 and you getting involved with that, because that was huge for the city. People forget about that. I mean, that was an international event that happened here in the city. Talk to me about that, man.
World Games, Special Olympics. Wow. What an impact that was in the city, but what an impact it was on me for my life. I'm working for the fire department. John DeStefano was the mayor at the time. And John calls me up and I'm in the firehouse. He says, Dex, that's what people call me. He said, Dex, what are you doing? I said, John, I'm working. He said, well, come see me after you get out of work. So I come to the mayor's office. Mind you, I've been working his campaign when he first started. So him and I are really, really best friends, and he trusted me. So I'm sitting in the mayor's office. He said, I need you to do me a favor. He said, what's that? I need you to help me get the city prepared for the World Games Special Olympics. Huh? I heard of it. And I was like, what? He said, yeah, we're going to executively remove you from the fire service. You're going to come into City Hall and you're going to help us get the city ready for the World Games Special Olympics. What does that mean? That means every department I was involved with, every single dollar, every paving of streets, every beautification of our city, myself and Bob Lamel, who's the director of phys ed and athletics for the Board of Ed at the time, the mayor, they just took us both out. We're still doing our other jobs, where Bob was. And we had to get the whole city ready. We had a year and a half to get the whole city ready for the World Games Special Olympics. And you're talking about a city of our size. First of all, it'll never happen in a city of our size. The only reason why it happened because of Tim Shriver, who lived in New Haven, was a teacher in the New Haven school system, and that was a part of the Kennedy family. Tim wanted it to be in his hometown.
Awesome.
So we had aquatics in New London, aquarium, and I forget what other. We had sports taking place on every university campus. 10,000 athletes are housed in between New Haven, Southern, Yale, Quinnipiac. Every university housed athletes from all over the world.
Amazing.
And the opening ceremonies, the pageantry of the opening ceremonies was off the hook. The first time I ever got a chance to meet the president, which was Bill Clinton at the time, it just was something that you'll never forget. Opening, closing ceremonies were something that was just totally, you can't imagine. And the World Games and the Special Olympic athletes who came into our city to take part in athletics all around Edgewood Park, everything was taken. Everything was shut down for 10 days to 2 weeks. They said the impact was going to be so heavy on New Haven that they advised everyone to take vacation the week of the Special Olympics. It's the only time I know that you could have walked across the Q Bridge and not get hit by a car because nobody was on the roads. The highway, you know how long wharf traffic is out there in New Haven? It was shut down. I mean, nobody just got on the road. Nobody came out. Everybody just stayed away. If they came in, if the volunteers came in, they parked somewhere outside the city and got busted to the hubs where everything was taking place. But the 10 days, you're talking about nervous for 10 days. I was nervous for 10 days because, you wanted everything. You wanted the city to shine. And we did. We pulled it off. I mean, when it was over, I think for 2 days, me and Bob Lamel just sat in the chair and just shook our heads. Can't believe we did this. Can't believe we did this. I can't
Yeah,
believe we did this. And
that's awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah, and then the other one I wanted to talk to you about was, okay, and God rest his soul. We just lost him, Floyd Little,
oh,
the Field House, right?
oh
Uh,
yes.
I mean, what a building, right? That we are so proud of here in the city. We got so many things that are happening in that Field House that the whole state uses, for that matter. But it's just a great looking facility. Tell me how that developed.
There were a couple of coaches from our city who approached the mayor and thought that it would be a great idea if we built an athletic complex in our city at the time. So the mayor brought myself, we put a committee together. The good thing about it is that we had a complex of that magnitude would never be built again by the state of Connecticut because we got the money because of the reason why it's in the location it's in right now, because it had to be attached to a school in order for it to be a school project. And that location was the only place that we can put that athletic facility next to Hill House. So everybody thinks this Hill House is athletic complex, but it belongs to the city and the school system in itself. It's put together by Commissioner of Education was Ted Sergi. The governor was John Rowland. Our superintendent was Reggie Mayo. The mayor was John DeStefano. And if those four guys weren't working together to make this thing happen, because it was a project that the state has never done before. And when we finished with it turned out to be a magnificent it was called New Haven Athletic Center. Then when somebody came up with the idea many years later, it was named after Floyd Little, which I'm so happy that I got a chance to be with Floyd when we did it. It just made a lot of sense to put it in his name for things that he's done here in New Haven growing up.
And tell them about Floyd Little a little bit. Tell for the folks that don't know.
Floyd was, like every other kid growing up in New Haven, I laugh. He went to troop school, he went to Hill House, he set all kinds of records, ended up at Syracuse, ended up in Denver, made a major impact. I think he saved Denver's football team just by, he was so impactful. But, you don't get too many kids or people that come out of small town like New Haven who make an impact on not just your city, but the world. And it just made sense to name that facility after Floyd Little.
And of course, he went into the Hall of Fame, NFL Hall of Fame.
He's in every College Hall of Fame, NFL Hall of Fame, Syracuse Hall of Fame, New Haven Hall of Fame. He is and he's so personable, man. Oh my goodness, this guy's approach to you is like he's known you for years. He's not a standoffish guy. He's such a friendly person. Truly will be missed. But building that building and watching the piles go in and the hammering of those piles when they first started in that neighborhood and watching it start to finish every day, because I was on that committee. As a matter of fact, if you walk in the lobby, I'm not dead yet, but you see my name on the plaque. You'll see that we did a lot of things and it's being used by every, let me see, we got, I'm the voice of the field house, which you've seen that. I announce all the basketball games in it.
Yeah, and also, by the way, I went to see the game, and I'm watching Bill Dixon mixing the jams in between timeouts and at halftime, and I'm like, who's playing his music? And it's Bill Dixon. I
learned it from you. I learned it from you, Juan. I had a lot of time with you. I learned how to get it in there. But it's what you had track and field. I think they have over 50-something track and field meets in there. Cheerleading, wrestling. Oh my goodness.
Awesome.
Everything you could think of in sports is so big. And that was the time we built that when we took down the Coliseum. So, with all the events that were going to happen at the Coliseum when we blew it up and imploded the building, they started to come to the field house, but we couldn't do car shows in the field house. It just wasn't going to happen. So we ended up losing all that stuff. But
Uh,
the field house is the gem of our city. It's actually the gem of the region because the CIAC, the state governing body of the state sports, does all their large events in that facility, other than running state championship games for basketball. Everything
it's
is
awesome.
done. Everything is done in their playoffs. You name them, they do it. Cheerleading, state finals, wrestling finals, track and field finals, all the classes. The place is used every week. There's something going on in that building.
And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about was, which is close to me because I'm living in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm hearing about God Street Park in New Haven, the Summer
Ooh.
League, and of course, being in New York, I also was getting exposed to John Williamson, who was one of my favorite players of all time, playing for the Nets, Super John, and so I'm hearing about this Summer League up there, right? Talk to me about the Summer League at God Street, brother.
I tell you, Summer League was one of the most impactful programs in the summer for
Yes.
not only for the high school teams or the college players that came in to play, but for the whole community as a whole. It's the only place I knew that you can go to and nothing would go on. Why?
No problem.
Because you had so many top heavy figure leaders, not only running the league, they had Ben Hunter and just naming a few, not only the leaders that were running the summer league, but the people who govern outside of it, the Newtons and everybody told, don't start that, don't do that mess in this park and stuff like
Right.
that. So that place would be packed. And just like going down to Rutgers, I mean, one year Sports Illustrated had the 10 top summer league sites in the country, and we were in the top 10. And that's including LA, Phoenix, New York, Chicago, Pearl Street, and Gulf Street. We were all listed in the top 10. I mean, it was remarkable. And every summer, that's where I became a high school basketball official. Every summer is where it was at. What you doing tonight? We're going to Gulf Street. They're playing games tonight. And obviously, you get a cross in Hill House or a cross in Lee back then when they had slide.
Players, you talk about Sue Campbell playing there, Kervin Lewis.
Oh,
I mean, you're talking about, Sly Williams, okay? And I gotta say this, it's like I've interviewed a lot of these cats, man, and one of the things that they talk about is when they mention your name and Ben Hunter, and the fact that they became good humans and grew up to be respected, gentlemen in life. They always talk about you guys, and because it wasn't just about the games, it was about the relationships that you guys bonded with these kids, man.
The thing you had to do, I mean, everybody knew if they came down to Gulf Street, don't act up, don't do anything crazy, because we want to literally grab you by the collar and put you in the hands of one of the officers in there. So we didn't have problems. Everybody came in, sat down, hooped and hollered, watched the games. It was real. I mean, I remember times we brought New York teams in there to play. You couldn't find a standing place, yet alone there was nowhere to sit. You couldn't find a standing place around the courts because it was real basketball. It was just like going down, like you said, going down to Rutgers and the kids are on the school buildings. They're in the trees. Everybody wants to see the game, get there early and get a seat. And so you can watch the game. Gulf Street was where it was where things was happening. And, over the years, things change, the environment changes and interest gets lost. Everybody wants to play inside now. I mean, for me who ran a summer league, I had to move the girls inside because I didn't want to tear up their knees.
Right. True. And so of course, with your job, with the Parks and Recreation Department, I mean, it's not just about basketball. I mean, because you guys have done a lot of other things, that have really, especially like when you're talking about the fields that you had, the baseball fields and the soccer and all of that, and now you're talking about hockey. Talk to me about this latest endeavor.
You know, I laugh. I think it was brought to my. As a matter of fact, I picked it up about 2 years ago. I went to a conference, which I'm a member of the organization. I'm probably the only black ice rink manager on the East Coast, if not New England. Honest to goodness, we had a big conference, and all the rink managers from all over the country were there, and you saw some assistants and stuff like that. But I'm the only manager there who's running the rink. Ralph Walker Rink. We redid Ralph Walker Rink. We were about to implode it when somebody, Albertus Magnus, came up with a great idea that they're going to start hockey at their university. And they thought that maybe it'd be a great idea to redo Ralph Walker Rink, and they put their money in it along with the city. We redid the whole rink. New ice, new floor, new building, a brand new building. Their locker room is right there at the building. The back end of it is a concession stand and where the public will enter at, not the old place. And Nike approached me about a month ago. One of my girls who used to play for me works for Nike up in Oregon, and she says, "Mr. Dixon, I want to do something for you." And I said, "What are you talking about? I don't need no gear." And which, because normally she sends me some shoes or gear. She said, "No, I want to get you in touch with Bauer." I said, "Bauer?" And I'm saying, "Bauer is hockey." He said, "Yeah." He said, "I know you run that rink down there." And Nike is trying to put programs together for inner city kids to teach inner city kids how to play hockey. Um, they're going to put grants and money into me or into my program to work with kids on learn how to play hockey. And so I came up with the idea. I said, we got 9 middle schools. We have a lot of children. I mean, it's not all about basketball and all the other stuff like that. There's other things going on out there. And I'm pretty sure if our kids can learn it and know what it's about, it's an expensive sport to be in. But
Yes.
if I got people, I told Nike, I said, when they called me, I said, if you're going to do that, I will, because you can see the building from the highway. I said, I will put a big Nike sign on the roof of our red roof pavilion for everybody coming up 95 can see it. I said, if you're going to put that type of investment in us, in our city, in our program to teach inner city kids, 6th to 8th graders, how to play hockey, it's a great move. And then I talked with the athletic director at New Haven School System, and Eric said, quote, bet, because we lost our hockey pro. The only hockey pro we had was at Cross.
Mm-hmm.
And when the interest was down because we weren't feeding, you got to feed the program to keep it going. That's why middle school football is successful right now. That came from the Special Olympics, by the way.
Okay.
They put a lot of money into our middle school programs to keep them going. Baseball, basketball, obviously football was the big one. And we still run middle school football, and now we're going to start middle school hockey and get kids to learn how to play hockey with skates and everything. So I'm writing up a plan right now, a training program to try to get this thing off the ground in September with our middle school kids, and try to have an intramural program by next year, January, February, and Albertus Magnus said they're going to help with us. They're going to get involved heavily in making sure this thing goes right for us. So
Kudos to you, brother. And so listen, man, I mean, considering that you were born in Bridgeport and New Haven pretty much, adopted you as their own, and you've been here ever since. What do you got to say to the city, man? What do you got to say to all the people?
Well, thinking about all the people that I rubbed elbows with, they trust me, and all I'm doing is trying to pick up where they left off. They handed me something. They wanted me to keep it going. And I guess this is my forte to try to keep moving things forward. I'm getting older. What I said, what am I, 20 years with the fire service and 19 years with the Parks Department. I got to find some younger people to pick up where I'm picking up at. But, the thing is trying to make sure that it sustains itself. It doesn't burn out, or the people that you put in place to do your program, don't let it go by its wayside. it's so important that you sustain programs and keep them going, because parents and kids are looking forward to the following year to do that again. And nobody's more stronger and advocate for our programs than our city people, because we have so many resources in New Haven. It's scary. You got Yale sitting over there who's willing to help. You got all these community involvement programs. We have a hospital. We're loaded with resources where other cities just don't have that. No,
Right.
other cities don't do what we do for our kids and our programs. And sometimes we think we don't do enough, but we're doing a lot with a little. That's the main thing. When I
Well,
first started with New Haven Parks Department, I had 10 full-time recreation supervisors, and I got 2.
right,
So I'll tell you where we go. But we still do the same thing we've been doing. We get
right.
it done.
Well, listen, brother, I want to thank you personally, but also from my city, from New Haven. We thank you for your service and all what you've done for this city, and thank you for the mentoring and what you've done for our kids and our young people. We appreciate you, brother. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to get you on here so I could say this to you. Now, we've been friends for many years, but by
Yes.
the same token, I just wanted to honor you. While we can still, while you can still smell your flowers, brother. All right. So thank you so much, Bill.
I,
Right.
I thank you, Juan. I really thank you. I told you before, I'm not a person that talks about what I did. My God knows what I've done and how I've done it and made an impact on kids and families. Um, it's just something I'm blessed with to try to keep it going. Today I say no, I can't do it no more. So I'm here. I'm here.
All right. So listen, everybody, don't be calling Bill trying to get them bikes, the 200 bikes he got in his basement.
Don't call me.
Juan Castillo with you is the electric drum right here on 94.3 WYBC.